Hey everybody, welcome back to another SUPboarder video review. In this SUPboarder review, we're going to be looking at the new Itiwit 500 inflatable surf SUPs. We're going to be doing a comparison review of both the 9-foot and the 8-foot. These boards are designed for definitely SUP surfing and catching waves, and if you are remotely interested in inflatables and where the future of SUP surfing in particular is going, you've got to check this video out. Now, before we get into this video, I'm just going to remind you to check out the new SUPboarder website. You'll find loads of great SUP content, but also loads more information about these boards in review. And really importantly, there's a reader survey about the boards that we're going to be testing in this review and other products that we've tested so far. Even if you haven't used the products, we still love to hear what you think of them, and also it will make a big difference to how brands improve their products in the future and making sure other SUPboarders make the right kit choices. So, full specifications for these boards, you have the 9-foot and the 8-foot. The 9-foot is 32 wide and the 8-foot is 30 wide. Both the boards are 4 inches thick. Then it gives the volume of 135 litres for the 8-foot and 175 for the 9-foot. When we weighed these boards, they actually came in underweight of what they say on the bags. The 8-foot came at 9.5 kilograms and the 9-foot came at 11 kilograms. Both the boards come with the same fin setups. They come with Itiwit slide-in thruster box fin setups, and they both retail at 599 euros or 499 pounds. These boards are made of an internal core of drop stitch, multiple layers of PVC fabric, and they've got polyethylene stringers on the top and bottom of the board. And something that's very different from other boards that we've seen is extra PVC around the nose and the tail, which gives the board much more of a stiffer feel on the water. But we're going to talk about that more in a minute. So moving on to our SUPboarder thoughts and impressions. Well, the look of the board, it's nothing massively standout or flashy. The graphics are tasteful, but not in your face like other boards. All the fittings they come with are very unique to Itiwit brand. The deck pad is a really nice full-size deck pad. The grip itself is very different to anything we've seen before. Very tactile, very grippy underfoot, and also there's nice markings that show you where you should be standing in your normal paddle area and when you're getting back near the board. It's finished off with a really big tail kick pad at the back of the board. Very easy to find with your foot, and it really helps when you want to get those turns on the board. The carry handle in the middle of the board, again, it's very different. It's only on the Itiwit boards we've seen this. It has an adjustable carry handle which you can undo and make the carry handle big like that, or you can flatten it right off for when you want to go surfing and get on the water so it doesn't get in the way. The pressure valve is up at the front of the board, and then that means you can get the deck pad right to the back of the board, and at the back of the board you've got a leashing point which is very different from a sort of standard stainless D-ring. It's a webbing leashing point. Both the boards have got the same fittings, just a different colorway between the 9 and the 8-foot. Looking at the outline shape of the board, you can see that the 9-foot is much bigger than the 8-foot, not only in length but in width and in volume, with the width and the midpoint, and then pulling it nicely in to the tail at the back of the board to help the turns. Turning the board over and looking at the bottom of the board, it's a little bit easier to notice the material that's gone in. You can see the double stringer under the bottom going right down the full length of the board. And at the back of the board here, very different from any other board we've seen in the market so far that we've tested, extra layers of PVC around the rails and the bottom of the board. Gives that board that stiffness, that extra bit of rigidity, especially around the tail, which is all about generating speed and making the board fast on the wave. A few other things that are very different from other boards you'll find in the market is the Itiwit fin system, the slide-in fin system. A very neat, well put together fin system that you can find spare fins for very easily on the internet too. They just simply clip, slide in and slide out, and there you're left with a lightweight, stiff, good profile fin. We'll talk about how these perform in the water in a minute. But again, the fin box itself, it's very low, it's kept very sleek to the deck, and it really helps to keep the speed up when you're surfing these boards. Apart from the fins, you've also got the rail grip, which is really quite pronounced on this board. We have seen other sort of grip rail edge systems on other brands that we've tested, but not like this and not put on this way. The way they've done this is they put the rail grip edge on, and then they've put the PVC layer over the top of that and over the rail of it. So it's finished off really neatly, and it's there to help obviously the release of the water go off the back of the board really smoothly. It's a very clever and simple idea, but it really makes a difference to the speed of the board and the overall stiffness of the board. A little bit more about how this grip rail system will work. Well, it actually is exactly what it says. It's going to give you more grip and bite on a wave. We'll speak about that again in a minute, but it's definitely the way things are going and the way things have got to go to get more performance surfing iSUPs. So moving on to the rocker line, because you know I always like talking about rocker line when it comes to talking about iSUPs. Now actually this board is relatively flat. There's a little bit of nose kick, nose rocker there, and a little tiny bit of tail rocker, but we're going to speak about more about rocker and what it's like on the water a bit later on. Now, just before we go on to what it's like on the water, let's talk about the bag and the rest of the package that you get with the board. The bag it comes with is a very basic but strong backpack. There's no wheels, it's not super padded, but it is going to get the board in easy, and it's going to be fine for carrying your board short to moderate distances. What also comes as standard is a black leash, which will get you on the water, and it's great for surfing small to moderate size waves. You don't actually get a pump with this package, but we use the Itiwit triple action pump, which was easily a big enough, quick enough pump to get the air in this board, and it pumps up to 21 psi. The recommended pressure for these boards is 17 psi, which is what we pumped it up when we used it and when we did our deflection test. When we put this board through our deflection test, which is where we put it on a gap of 1.5 meters apart, and we put a weight of 75 kilograms in the center, and then we measure how much the board deflects or drops. This board only dropped 14 millimeters. Now this is a 4-inch thick board. Now this is stiffer than any of the 4.75-inch thick boards that we've tested, unless they've got stiffening rods down the side. So it's incredibly stiff board for the thickness. So you've got to bear in mind 14 millimeters is a very stiff board for the thickness. So let's move on to talking about what it's like on the water. Now the first thing you'll notice is when you stand on these boards is the stiffness. I mean, it is incredible how rigid these boards feel underfoot. They feel like they're more like a 6-inch thick board than a 4-inch thick board. Just remember that generally the thicker the board, the stiffer it'll feel, but the more detached you are from the paddling experience. So a 4-inch thick board is just as thick as a composite board, and it's actually very stiff too. So it gives you a really nice feeling when you're paddling in the water, and also when you're paddling over waves, you can really feel the board is stiffer then too, because it doesn't have that sort of wobble that you would get on some iSUPs as you pop over the wave and you come over the back of the wave. So it's incredibly stiff to paddle, and it's very reactive at pumping and popping over waves. When it comes to catching waves, it has a good amount of glide. Even the 8 foot catches waves really easy, and that's again due to the stiffness of the board, and actually because it isn't got loads of rocker. Remember, the more rocker you have on the board, it might be better for the surf, but actually it makes it a little bit slower when you're paddling in. The thruster setup keeps the board nice and straight and true, so paddling straight to catch that wave really isn't a problem, even if you're not that on it with your footwork or paddling technique. Now when it comes to what these boards surf like on a wave, they are so much fun. And the biggest thing I'm going to say compared to other iSUPs, because we have tested some very good surfing iSUPs, but these are very, very responsive. They're very immediate. As soon as you push your bottom turn, as soon as you want to go up to the top turn, they just react very quickly. We know that the rail edge system that we've seen on other boards and the grip rail edge on this one helps with the bite of the board. It helps with the drive of the board, especially off the bottom turn, and when you're going up to your top turns. But I think the fin setup on this, the smooth, the subtle design, the stiffness of the fins really helps the turning and the reactiveness of these boards. These boards are a lot of fun to surf on, and iSUP surfing is always something, there's a bit of a technique to it, but these boards are incredibly similar to surfing a composite board. They're not like full-on top-end performance like a composite board, but they are going to get you in the critical sections of the wave. You are going to be able to pump down the wave, move up and down the wave, and basically be a lot freer on the wave surfing these boards opposed to other inflatable surf SUPs. And also, because these boards are only 4 inches thick, the actual bite that you can get off the forward part of the rail really helps the board surfing as well. So it's not only to do with the back of the board, but it's also to do with the mid part of the board, and it being 4 inches thick, it really helps the turning and the feeling of the board on the wave. Who do we think we're best suited for? Weight, ability and usage. Well, ability, the 9 foot is a nice big stable board, and it's going to take beginner paddlers into surfing small waves or even just doing some flat water paddling. There's no doubt about it. There is a big difference between the 8 foot and the 9 foot. You jump on the 8 foot, it's a lot shorter, you've lost a lot more width, and obviously the volumes come down as well. Rider weights, you're going to be able to get up to an 80-90 kilogram intermediate paddler on the 9 foot for sure, and they rate it a lot smaller on the internet, but I still think an an 85 kilogram rider who's pretty on it with their footwork is going to be able to ride the 8 foot with no problems at all. What you can use it for? Well, you could take them flat water paddling. In fact, the 9 foot would actually work okay for that, but really small waves up to, well overhead surf, they're going to be really happy just to get out there and catch some good waves. So to conclude with SUPboarder pros and cons and value for money. Pros, these boards can really surf, and 4 inches thick, they are so stiff, so responsive on the wave. If you're looking for an iSUP to take traveling around the world, you have got to look into one of these Itiwit boards. Cons, well, where there's stiffness, there's usually weight, and there is a little bit of weight to these boards. They're definitely not the lightest boards in the market, even though that when we weighed them, they come in under the stated weight that they see on the internet and on their bags. They still do weigh a bit. The carry handle also isn't the most comfortable if you're going to be carrying the board long distances. It's a great feature that you can open up and make it bigger, but with the weight of the board, it does make it a little bit painful if you're doing a 3 or 4 mile hike to the beach. And if you're going to be surfing bigger stuff, it might be worth upgrading your leash. We did actually break a leash on surfing the 9 foot, but then to be fair to the leash and the board, we were pushing it and it was well overhead in that set. And to be honest, I've broken many leashes before, but I think it's definitely probably worth upgrading for a better leash if you're going to be surfing all of the time. And lastly, let's talk about Rocketline. Yes, they are a little bit flatter than some other boards we've tested recently, and you are going to have to learn how to surf them, and you are probably going to take some fair amount of beatings if you really want to surf them hard, because these boards can be surfed hard. The fin system, the rail setup, the stiffness of the board, they really will encourage you and get you to surfing in the faster, steeper, better waves. The Rocketline, the curve of the board, when you're coming off on those maneuvers, you will nosedive because of it. So yes, it is a con to certain people, but it's more of something you're going to have to be aware of when you're surfing a more flatter Rocketline board like these Itiwits. But I think, having said about all those cons, it's a very small price to pay to have a board that performs as well as these do in the surf. And value for money, well, hell yeah, it's good value for money. Even though you might have to upgrade the leash, you don't get a pump with the package. The board you get, the materials that are into the board, and what it feels like on a wave is definitely worth the value for money. So there you go. If you are after a surfing iSUP, you've got to look at the Itiwit boards. Check them out. Go and have a look for them. If you want to find out more about what we think about this, check out the SUPboarder Pro video, where I'm going to be comparing it to other boards on the market. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to stay up to date by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and remember to go on and leave a review on SUPboarder and watch this video if you haven't already on the SUPboarder website. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.